If you've ever been told you need to plan your RV trip 5 or 6 months in advance and be up at 7 a.m. to get a coveted booking or risk having to spend your night in a Walmart parking lot, you're certainly not alone. But what if we told you that winging it can actually lead to some of your best camping memories? We're heading out east this year. We are heading to Nova Scotia and PEI. And guess what? We've only booked one night so far. We've booked a night at a brewery, which we'll talk about on this episode. And we're not stressed about it, not even a little. And this episode, we're going to talk about why. Welcome to the RV Canucks podcast. I'm Melina, and that is my husband, Dan.
Hi, guys.
And we travel all over North America in our 29-foot travel trailer, which for those watching on video today, we are doing our first ever podcast from the trailer, and we are very excited about it because that means our season has officially started. So we always welcome you to travel with us to all of the places we go. Today, we're sticking very close to home, and we are doing a little bit of a shakedown trip, maybe about, 10 kilometers from where we live.
Yeah, 10, 12-minute drive.
Yeah, which was very good because earlier today, we've been here twice today. Dan came to pick me up. I had been away all week in Saskatoon for work, and I came home late last night, and Dan came to pick me up to bring me to the trailer today, and we got here and he realized he had forgotten the trailer keys at home, so we had to go back. So that's one reason. If you listen to us talk about shakedown trips in the past, we say do it close to home, and these are the reasons why.
Yeah, I might have forgotten a couple other things, but nothing catastrophic so far.
Right. Okay, so this episode, if you're a weekend warrior, you're part-time, you're done with spreadsheets and itinerary planning that exhausts you before your trip even starts, this is the episode for you. So let's talk about how to RV literally without reservations.
Well, so winging it means it gives you an opportunity to see unplanned sites, that little monument at the side of the road, the cool park, a hiking trail. Let the road take you and find something, little treasure out there. But you want to have your rig in tip-top shape. And recently we had a chance to talk to our friend Nancy at Niagara Trailers, who spoke about some of the important things that you should consider to make sure your rig's tip-top, the preventative maintenance that you want to do so you have a safe trip.
And we're going to actually listen to her tell us about it.
So let's let the expert tell us what we need to all think about.
Yep.
We're at Niagara Trailers, and I'm with
Nancy.
And you work in the...
I work in the service department at Niagara Trailers.
What's maybe the one or two things people should do as preventative maintenance that will prevent a bigger problem?
Well, I think the major thing is just to pay attention, right? Because it is something that is on wheels that is going to bounce up and down the highway. So you just have to pay attention to what may be coming loose. But the major maintenance package for us is the wheel bearings package. And so we take out all the old grease, clean them up, put in new grease, inspect everything, brakes and all. And then if there's an additional issue, we will call the customer and describe that issue. The other one would be resealing their trailer. So that's all their sealant. That's on the roof, that's on the sides of the bodies, around all the trims and that kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily always resealing it in the sense of a job, but it is definitely checking to make sure there's no gaps in those sealants.
So I think probably seals and wheels are the two big things that people
Seals and wheels, yeah. Water, we don't want water.
We don't want water, and we want the wheels to stay on.
That's it. No,
awesome.
No tire blowouts.
So on our trip to Key West, we did all of the right things. We had, we got new tires, we got the brakes adjusted, we had the bearings done. On the way home, we did have a bearing go, and fortunately we got ourselves home. But it's just a good reminder to everybody to service those kind of things and make sure that everything's in tip-top shape so that you don't get stuck, late at night or delayed along your trip and miss something cool because you had to wait for a repair to be done that could have been handled just through preventative maintenance. But, we had enough education to fix it ourselves with the dealer's help over the telephone and covered by warranty and stuff like that. So that was good. Mm-hmm. But just a good reminder, I think, for everybody to take care of those things and not just charge down the highway.
Yeah. And if you're listening to us relatively live, I know podcasts are evergreen, but it's May of 2025. So there's still plenty of time for you to get those things booked in before your camping season starts.
That's good advice. Like, don't delay now. Don't kick it down the road. You don't want to have trouble in July when you're in the peak season.
Yeah. So let's talk about why we're winging it. Maybe we need to start this actually by talking about kind of like the first, we'll say, leg of our trip, or like the non-trip that's starting the trip.
Yeah. So one thing you've heard us talk about is like, you don't have to have a traditional only camping type RV trip. It's okay to have a bit of a hybrid model. And I think this has a bit of a hybrid model because we need to do some other travel that's it's pleasure really, but it's definitely not set up for RV travel. So maybe just set the stage for that.
Yeah. So in early July, Isla, our youngest daughter, she has a national dance competition in Ottawa, which was booked, a year ago. It's the same competition that she went to in Halifax last year. It's a really great one, but we stay in a hotel. We stay with the rest of her dance school. And she's basically competing for like 3 days, I think, 3 or 4 days. So it's something where we need to be in a hotel in the heart of Ottawa, which does not lend itself well to RV travel. However, we decided early this year when we were doing our trip planning that we wanted to continue on from there and go to the East Coast instead of driving, 5.5 hours home to pick up the trailer and backtrack. So what we are doing is we are parking the trailer for the 5 days that we're in Ottawa. And then we are going to go very early on the morning that we leave to pick up the trailer, hook up, and just hit the road. And we plan on making it from Ottawa to New Brunswick that first day. So the first day we've planned, a 7.5 hour drive time, not including stops or anything like that. And that is the only thing we have booked for this trip. And it's in like 8 weeks. So we booked at a brewery using Harvest Hosts. One, because it's beautiful. It's right on a river. It's right next to the town that has the world's largest axe, which is pretty exciting. But it's actually at a perfect stopping spot for that first day to just kind of break up the travel. And this place was booking fast. So we did snap it up just for the night that we need to sleep there before we continue on our journeys. But other than that, we have not planned anything. So maybe let's talk about why we're choosing to wing it.
Well, yeah. So already we're, a week into this trip and we're really using a hybrid model. We've driven a full day's drive to Ottawa, brought the trailer, parked it for the week, jumped into a hotel, let her do her dance competition. And now we're using Harvest Host. We're not going to a traditional campground. We're using Harvest Host. I'm really excited for that. There's 2 reasons. The other reason we would like to do this podcast, we'd like you guys to jump in and give us your advice, because there has to be people out there in Nova Scotia and PEI and the Maritimes that know that cool little thing. So don't be afraid to jump onto social media or send us an email and say, hey, if you're in this area, this is what you should see. So That's one of the reasons for the podcast. The other reason we want to talk about this subject is RVing should be relaxing. Like your vacation time is precious and it shouldn't be stressful. And one of the reasons that you could get stressed out is the planning of a trip. 3, 4, 5 months in advance. Do you have to coordinate with another couple? Do you have to get on at 7 a.m.? Are you trying to book every single campsite along the way, which causes you stress of having to jump on every single day maybe and try and book a campsite, but also the stress of hitting a milestone every single day. You have to make this particular stop and it doesn't allow you to adjust for something you hadn't planned to see or bad weather or something like that.
Yeah.
So we think, and we've done this before, that it's an easier way to travel. It's less stressful.
Yeah, I think, one thing that we've realized, driving across the continent several times, there have been days where, we've decided that we're going to pre-book nights and we have a particular juncture that we need to get to, or a particular mile marker, and things fall apart, especially when you have younger kids, especially now as we get old and we're sort of in our middle age and we're tired and we're cranky and we don't want to travel as far. It's really difficult to have to head to a place when things sort of fall apart, and maybe somebody gets car sick, or you have to stop one too many times for pee breaks, or something breaks on your trailer. Those things really can put a damper in the start of what should be a really pleasurable trip. So I would say we're not against long travel days. We do them all the time. Like we're known to travel between, say 12 and say 16 hours on day 1 or 2 of a travel day, because we know that like the destination is really where we want to get to and spend some time before we have to turn around and come back home or our holidays are ending. But it's so much easier, and we have found that it's so much more relaxing for us to say, okay, we want to get to like maybe around this area, and a couple hours before we're done for the day, we'll start looking for a place. And I think, we have found some really delectable locations by doing that, and some really cool places that we never would have found if we were just trying to stick to campgrounds or traditional places to stay along the road.
And there is a place for booking ahead, right? Like we've already booked a harvest host, so we know we have a bit of an anchor, so to speak, on that trip. There's a place to book ahead on a holiday or a long weekend. If you want to get that favorite campsite, get into that busy campground, there's a spot to do that. But there is also a place to just jump ahead and wing it. And we have winged it, going into an area. And sometimes we know 2 or 3 different places that are options, and we'll decide when we get there. So when we did our trip out west, we went up through the Lake Superior coast, and we knew that we had a boondock spot in Sault Ste. Marie. There was one in White River. There was one in Thunder Bay, and a few other places in between. So we knew, depending on how the day went, where we would jump in and where we would stop. So it can be done. We've done it before.
Right. And I think the important part of what Dan just said is, building in sort of like those anchor locations, like those ones where you want to stay, or you have like a must-see spot, or, a must-see tourist destination where you maybe want to spend 1 or 2 days. Book those anchors and then just kind of wing it around those anchors, right? If you're going to leave home and, in 5 days, you want to be at a particular location, and you want to spend 3 days at an area that is great for day tripping, then that's great. But like book the anchor and then just kind of figure out the other stuff as you go, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, without being said, like long weekends, especially in the summer, if you're booking national or provincial parks, you might want to think a little bit further out. But context also matters. Like if you're booking, Banff National Park, and you want to stay in the, trailer court that has the full hookups, you need to be online at 8 a.m., in February or January when that booking window opens. Conversely, we're heading out east, and we're going to be driving through New Brunswick. And I just checked Fundy National Park today because we're thinking of stopping there. And booking windows for Fundy opened February 8th at 8 a.m. local time to Fundy National Park. And I went on today, and there's still like almost a dozen sites available that will fill our rig, which probably wouldn't happen at a place like Banff. So I think context is sort of king when you're deciding where you want to go. But, Fundy National Park is just sort of beside Alma, New Brunswick, which is a small little town. And if Fundy is booked up, there's like 7 or 8 RV parks within a 15-minute drive of Alma, New Brunswick and Fundy National Park anyway. So chances are you're going to be able to find some place to stay, right? And I think, you have to let go of we want to stay at this park, at this site, with this view, and just kind of like open yourselves up to the possibility that you actually might find something better by doing that.
Yeah, and I think this doesn't mean that we don't have a sense of where we want to go and what we want to see, like really big sense. And by that, I mean, I think Yarmouth, Bay of Fundy, those are 2 spots. Like those areas are big for us. Halifax, Lunenburg, finding a spot in PEI where it's kind of a central location that lets you do maybe some day trips. That's kind of what I mean by big picture. We have a sense of where we want to go. We also have a sense of where we can't go. Mm-hmm. We know we can't make it to Newfoundland on this trip. Right. And that's okay. There's a trip to Newfoundland in our future, but based on how much vacation time we have and the amount of time it takes to get out there, Newfoundland will probably be its own trip. So we kind of have figured out, big hand on the map where we're going to go. What we need is maybe some advice of those little gems, and we have some tools to do that for us.
Yeah, I think, we talk about this all of the time. We talk about RV Parky all of the time. Like, I feel like we should be getting paid, but nobody pays for RV Parky because it's free, but we just love it. Like, all over North America, I have found as a free app, it's the best app, both in Canada and the US, to find a place to stay. And you're going to find places to stay. It's not designed only for overnight stays, although that's how we primarily use it. And I don't think we've ever mentioned that before, but RV Parky just finds you an RV park or a campground that you can book. Like, if you found a place and you wanted to stay for a week, it's great. It doesn't work like Harvest Hosts or Terego, which is kind of the Canadian version, more so in Eastern Canada, that you only stay, or it's designed to stay one nights, with where you may be able to tack on 1 or 2 extra nights if you're really sort of vibing with the place, I guess. So RV Parky remains really good. I would say in the same vein, something like iOverlander, which is another app website that you can use that'll find rest stops, gas stations, dump stations, places to stay overnight, which again is in the same vein as All Stays. We have used All Stays. We do pay for a pro subscription on All Stays because I find All Stays for us when we're traveling the broader North America. So think, when we're in stateside and when we return to the States, All Stays is really, really, really good at finding dump stations, which is probably important because maybe let's talk about, I don't think anybody wants to be traveling with a full tank of water the entire time. But if part of your trip, you want to boondock, you want to maybe go off grid a little bit, find a space at the side of the road, or, somewhere that's sanctioned for off grid camping, you might want to make sure you have some water available. But I don't think you want to deal with the gas mileage situation of like driving all the way to the East Coast with a tank of water.
Well, for sure. Like, you want to bring enough water to make sure that you can brush your teeth and wash your face and flush the toilet, but you might not need full tanks. And of course, stuff goes down the drain as well, to wash the dishes, have a shower, flush the toilet. You don't want to carry that weight around for a couple of reasons. One is it's going to drag on your gas mileage and it adds weight. And for some people, that might be the bit that pushes them to the boundaries or over on their weight limit of what their vehicle can tow. So there are other places to dump. Obviously, you can dump in a lot of campgrounds. You can dump at some truck stops that are set up for RVs. But even across North America, there's municipal dumping stations that you can dump at. Just the town of any town, Canada will have one, and you can go in and dump, and it's real super easy. There's one in White River. We did that. It cost us $5, and we paid it the tourist information booth there to a couple of summer students. And that's how we kind of wrapped up that leg of our trip. Everything was dumped, and when we got home, everything was clean to put it away.
That's also the place, if you're ever in White River, right across the street from that, there was like this like greasy spoon / pub / watering hole that had really, really, really good food.
Oh,
we had to like wait in line to eat there, but it was awesome.
There can't be 1,000 people in White River, maybe, but it was lined up.
Yeah, I think the whole town was in there.
Right? Just, the Winnie the Pooh monument, the whole place, nice, quiet thing. The other thing I'll say about these apps is do all of us a favor, do your friends a favor, jump in and leave a review. And it can be as simple as, I stayed here May the 1st and it was quiet. I stayed here July the 15th and by 7 p.m. it was full. Those things are helpful because if you're planning ahead and you see a review that somebody said, 2 weeks ago that it fills up by 7, well, hey, maybe we got to get there by 7. But if you're like, listen, I pulled in at 9 o'clock and you could fire a cannonball down the street and not hit anybody, well, that's good information too, right? Let people know if it's noisy, is it quiet, other people around, because we all have different comfort levels of what we'll accept to do that.
Yeah. And we sort of have a rule when we're leaving reviews, and we didn't really talk about road trippers, but you know how much we love road trippers if you listen to this show. And I make a point of filling up road trippers from a review standpoint, just the same as we do, anything on Google Maps, RV Parky, etc. But I think, the basic rules are, number 1, leave a review. Number 2, say the day of the week you stayed, the time of the year you stayed, pros, cons, and amenities. Like, I think those things, if everybody just kind of commits to the same format, every traveler on the road is going to get what they need to make a decision on whether that is the right place for them to stay. And having the dates obviously help, right? I mean, it's great if everybody stays in the place and loves it, but nobody leaves a review and you want to stay there and the last review is, 5 years old. Chances are we might skip it because we're looking for something with a newer review or to see, if you can still stay overnight there.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe some tips to avoid stress. Do we want to talk about that?
Happy hour when you roll in?
Well, I think probably you want to make sure that you build in a couple anchor points, right?
Yeah.
You have a trip. You want to see something. We want to get out to the East Coast. Charlottetown is on our list. Halifax, thinking about Lunenburg, Yarmouth area, Bay of Fundy. So there's a few things in there, and we'll probably build a couple anchor points before we go. And Melina used the example of Banff. If you want, like, what I felt like Site 101 was the best site in the world, but that might only be 3 nights of your trip, right? So, like, make it a little less stressful by booking in the 3 most important nights. Random Wednesday number 1, when you're just driving down the highway and need to put some kilometers down, want to stop for a hike to stretch your legs, not so important, right? So don't box yourself in is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I think, you're going to find a lot of gems in private RV parks. Like, I think we have found some of the most lovely, kind, generous owners of private RV parks have really made the difference for us. And like the one example that comes to mind is when we were in Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma. Was it Oklahoma or Colorado? Maybe it was Colorado.
Colorado.
But we were driving. It was late. It was like pouring rain. We could not find this place. We called the guy and said, we'd love to stay. We're a couple hours out. It looks on the map like it might be a little hard to find. And this man went out in like a raining cats and dogs situation, waited for us at the interstate exit or entrance. And we got off the highway and he flagged us down, waved us down, took us right to the site and said, don't worry about it. Stay, do your hookups, go into town, which was like 2 stop signs and like 3 buildings. And he said, pay at the diner tomorrow morning on your way out. You remember that place?
Oh, I do remember that. And then we kind of found the world's coolest little diner with all the town folk having their morning coffee. But we have so many stories like that where we call ahead and we're like an hour out or we're 2 hours out and somebody's like, listen, you're in site 16, just come settle up in the morning. That's a big difference. That's a different experience than staying at a provincial park or an RV resort where you need a barcode to get in. And so it makes traveling a whole lot easier and just more relaxing. It's more casual and they're always willing to point you in the right direction. Stay off this highway, traffic will be bad in the morning, stuff like that. So that's really helpful to just old school, call ahead. It doesn't all have to be on your phone in an app. Pick up the phone and talk to somebody. So I think that's one of the big ones.
Yeah. And I think too, just after July 4th last year, when we went to Key West, we did have a little bit of trouble one day with our overnight because we wanted to stay sort of near like the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. And we called a couple of places and a couple of places were booked. And so that's fine. We just kind of expanded the map. We changed our endpoint. We ended up going a little further instead of a little short because we figured that would be best for the morning. We booked a spot at Carowinds, which is like an amusement park, kind of like Darien Lake for those in kind of Ontario, New York State who would know that, Canada's Wonderland type of thing, where they have a campground there. And that man who took our booking there, who like the operations manager, whoever's on staff, like stayed late, made sure like he was just closing up the store, but he like opened up the store so we could grab a cold beer to share that night. Like, honestly, like our best travel memories and the people, when we were going down Route 66 and we wanted an overnight and we called and we said, we're not going to be there till late because we decided to stop and see a few cool things on the way. So we ended up being a little bit late, not because something bad happened, but because we were just enjoying the road. And they were like, yeah, no problem. There's like a cone in your site with your last name on it. which was like the easiest place. There was all these cones lined up for all like reserving spots for people, and it had our last name on it. So like it couldn't have been easier to find our site. Had a super clean pool, super clean laundry machine. And again, nobody was there. We just settled up the next day. And, you know, it's sort of those experiences that really give you the local flair of what you're looking for, I think, when you're on the road.
I think so. I think it's just, it makes it so much easier to just go with the flow, because that's what we want to do in life. Everybody wants to do in life, not stress out about having to hit a particular site at a particular time and having too many rules. I think what I would ask everybody to just think about is, if you're a less seasoned traveler and you only do one type of stay, maybe just set yourself the goal of going on your trip and trying one new type of accommodation. And by that, I mean, if you only camp in a provincial park or a state park, try a harvest host, just one harvest host. If you have never boondocked before, maybe you want a boondock, but maybe like set yourself up for success. Pick a large truck stop that's got RV parking with a bunch of people there and try it for one night. Just push your comfort zone a little bit, because that's what gives you the flexibility to travel, right? And if you're the kind of person who maybe you do a lot of that stuff, maybe like splurge and go to a really cool RV resort and just experience resort life, right? So push your boundaries is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's okay to try something different.
Yeah.
And try, like I am like Mr. Not Try Something Different. So this has been a journey for me, and I think Melina would agree with that.
Yeah. Dan's wild now, I tell you. He's gone from like vanilla ice cream to like Neapolitan. Okay, with that said, I think as we wrap up this episode, you know, that was the one ask of Dan, is like, try something different. I think we have two more asks for the listener base. You know, one of them would be, you know, contact us and let us know what happy accidents you've had on the road. Like, where have you had surprising, neat little stories that you didn't expect when you were on the road because you decided to do something different? Like, reach out to us on TikTok. You can message us on Instagram, Facebook, send us an email, hello@rvcanucks.com. And I would say the last thing is just, you know, as Dan said, like, push yourself out of the comfort zone. Try to leave a couple of nights unbooked on your site. And then the last thing I would ask for is anybody who lives in the East Coast, anybody who travels there regularly, also reach out and tell us about the gems that Dan was talking about at the beginning of the show, because we are taking everybody and anybody that we talk to, we are taking all of their recommendations for the coolest things that they know that are kind of off the beaten path. And we would love to explore some of them.
Because I know everybody, like, I think we live in a cool area, right? And if somebody came to our town, I would say, hey, go check this out. It's not on the official travel guide, and we know you guys are out there. Tell us what we're missing, because we don't know everything about all these places, right? We know how to read a map and use some apps and wing it. But tell us what cool little thing, because we're going to the Maritimes in Atlantic Canada. Like, water and fish and a good cup of coffee and hopefully an apple pie are part of that. So tell me where tell me where the best apple pie is,
and the best lobster roll,
and the best maybe fishing village to go, so I can go chat up some of the old timers. Maybe do a little bit of fishing myself. That would be cool too.
All right. Sounds good.
So I'm excited for this trip, actually.
Me too. And more to come. We'll give you more as we, you know, figure out what we're doing. And we're going to be taking a lot of video when we're out there, just so you can see what winging it is actually like, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, if we break down, if we fight, if we argue, you're going to be the first to see it. So stay tuned.
We're really sharing the whole process with everybody, right? We've never really done that before. We've talked about what we did afterwards, but we're like building this as we go down the runway. And I'm okay with that. Like, it makes the rest of my life easier. We're on our shakedown trip right now, and I've already forgot half a dozen things because I was too stressed out. I don't need to add on that figuring out where I'm going to stay on random Thursday number 4. So
I'm proud of you, Dan.
So we'll get ourselves, it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody forgets something. Don't think we'll forget the keys again.
All right.
But actually it's all on me. So
it's all good. With that said, we will talk to you in a couple of weeks, and stay safe out there.
Enjoy yourselves and have a great spring.
Bye.
Bye.